On this episode of the Unnamed Political Podcast, we'll be discussing debates, primaries, and more.
Rarely is the question asked, how is our children learning?
My fellow Americans.
Corporations are people, my friend.
Our country is in serious trouble.
I did not send classified material, and I did not receive any material that was marked or designated classified.
But man is not free unless government is limited.
Bringing you opinions on historic, current, and international politics. Welcome to the Unnamed Political Podcast.
Hello and welcome to the 27th episode of the Unnamed Political Podcast. I'm your host, Clark Wahlberg.
I'm Jack Horvath.
Alright, so to start off, we had the most recent Republican debate several nights ago, and now that the New Hampshire primaries are over, the candidates have moved on to South Carolina. Briefly to touch on what happens, New Hampshire, Jack?
Well, in New Hampshire, for the Republican, because we didn't really talk about this in our last episode, for the Republican primaries that happened in New Hampshire, we had Trump win by a landslide, which was
absolutely
predicted.
massive.
Everyone in the polls predicted this, that he would win by a ginormous margin. On the Democratic primaries, Bernie Sanders won by a huge margin, just as predicted by the polls. It was huge. It was huge.
Yeah, in both cases, it was huge.
It's a political revolution.
Yes, actually. Unfortunately, that's what it seems. Everything's being, all rules are being broken.
Yep.
Bernie, and just to briefly move over to the Democrats quickly, in a somewhat scary situation with Hillary, Bernie swept with all ages for women, with the exception of the elderly. So Hillary is starting to lose her feminist appeal, it would seem.
I would say so, yeah.
Mm-hmm. All right, but back to the Republicans. So we obviously saw Trump win by a landslide, but we also saw two potential rising stars of the establishment, as Rubio, his campaign took a major hit in the last debate before the New Hampshire primaries, where Chris Christie just really laid it in.
He wrecked him.
It was very brutal. So Marco Rubio, he's been falling behind, and do you think he'll be able to catch up?
This late in the season, he would need to do something amazing. It's still possible? Sure. Yeah, he can do it. But it's incredibly difficult.
I think he still has a fairly good chance, but he's been very bloodied.
Yeah.
Another candidate who's now virtually gone, who hasn't dropped out, Ben Carson. He took 2% in New Hampshire. He's not in a very good situation.
I forgot that he was in the debates. That's how bad it was.
Yes, the Republican field has thinned considerably. Mm-hmm. We also, after the New Hampshire, we saw the drop of Carly Fiorina and Chris Christie, and of course, longtime frontrunner Jim Gilmore, who collectively in Iowa and New Hampshire received 21 votes.
Bit the dust.
Yeah.
That's too bad.
He was, for the most part, not even included in the majority of polls.
I think he was in one debate, though. He was in one of the undercard debates.
One undercard debate,
one.
yeah, and that was it. Jim Gilmore, thank you for your service. I'm shocked.
Happy Gilmore.
Yeah, that's a good title for the episode. Now on to South Carolina. We're seeing the candidates come back in. So as we kind of got off track, Ohio Governor John Kasich did a strong second in New Hampshire comparatively.
He did very well.
Compared to the other candidates. However, he did for the most part run a one-state campaign. Yeah. And he is, in terms of presidential elections, almost bankrupt. He only has about $2.5 million in the bank, and we're going to see how well that will carry on. Mm-hmm. But he is, for the time being, afloat.
Yeah, he's doing okay. I like him. I think
he's a likable guy.
He's a very good VP.
Traditional. I think that's a very good position for him.
He won Ohio. Mm-hmm. He was a very highly respected governor. I think it would be a clear win.
He knows how a bill becomes a law, as his campaign says. Another candidate to kind of keep this going quickly was Jeb Bush. He also kind of rose up quickly.
Strong debate performance.
And he's slowly starting to get back on his feet. In the recent debate, he was able to fend off attacks much more effectively than we've seen before.
Very well, definitely, in that debate.
Mm-hmm. He still has a huge amount of money, and is now getting backup from both his mother and now his brother.
Definitely having his brother down in South Carolina to, be around there and give a speech, that's definitely going to help him. I
don't know. I think that Trump and the other this is going to be a good opportunity for people to attack him. Right. Because George does not, as decision points back there, you can't bring that up.
Oh boy.
Yeah, he has a bit of a controversial legacy, depending on who you ask. But for the most part, I think, at least in South Carolina, that will help him.
I would like to mention that I think it would definitely help him, and that Bush and his father both won the primaries in South Carolina. So they've been particularly nice to the Bushes.
Yes.
Because they're both in the South.
We'll see if this continues. But again, if any rule in this election stands, it's that rules do not matter.
True.
All right. Anything else in the Republican Party?
No, I think we covered everything we need to cover.
Okay, but so that kind of covers what we're up to. But now, again, we're going to try to keep this brief. Moving on to our next topic, the potential for a brokered convention in the Republican Party.
And the Democratic convention as well. It could be possible.